Good morning, everyone. Kris here with Inspired Energy, and joining me this morning is Mr. Hartwell once again. And today we get to talk about a long-awaited topic, right? all about how all about how human design has a value for us understanding relationships between people. And this is one of the most valuable things I find with human design is to understand a person that you're in relationship with, whether it's a business relationship or a personal relationship, a family member, so that you can start to understand how you're meant to relate to each other. And it can help alleviate some of the, the tension and I don't know what else to say. Like, just help you utilize your skills better together, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it has a tremendous implication for bringing clarity to relationships. So where do you think we should start with this subject, Hartwell?
Well, a couple of just bringing forward some of the things that we've already discussed, which is the importance of living according to your own strategy and authority. That applies to people. So, who comes into your life and invites you? Who do you respond to? And are you entering into that relationship in a way that is correct for you? The other thing to remember is the idea of we are all transmitters. So we transmit an energy based upon what is defined in our design, and we receive from others and amplify their energy where we are white, where we're undefined. Mm-hmm. And so those things those already there's a lot of information about how to relate to people in a way that's good.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now,
go ahead.
The next place to go with that is to think about how the energy dynamics of your chart, which derives from 5 different definitions. So a single definition chart, for instance, is a chart that has only one circuit. So if you're looking at a design chart and you see that everything is connected, that is, the defined centers are connected into one circuit, that's single definition. And these people are very independent in a way. They don't require anybody in order to live the life that they're meant to live. Mm-hmm. Now, they're 41% of the world. Now, 46% of the world are single splits. So you might have 2 centers up here and 3 centers down here of the 9. That are connected in 2 separate groups, right? Mm-hmm. And so that would be a split design. And 46% of the world have a split. Mm-hmm. And these people are, they are more people-oriented. They are more relationship-oriented. And they look to and naturally draw people who have gates that bridge their gaps. Mm-hmm. Okay? And that's where it starts to get exciting. Mm-hmm. You can compare charts to each other.
Right. Now, go ahead. I was just going to say there's more than just the 2 types, isn't there? Like there's...
Yes, those are 2 of them, the 2 most prevalent. There's also the potential to be triple split, to have 3 separate sections, and even rarely to be quadruple split. And of course, if you're a reflector and have nothing defined, then of course you have no definition at all.
Right.
So those are the 5.
Okay. So since the bridging gates are so important in an individual's design, they must be super important when it comes to relationships.
It is because we will naturally draw people into our lives who have those gates, and it allows that. If you have one side of a gate and another person has the other side of the gate, there's a zap there that creates energy. It creates a magnetic connection.
Right.
These are some of the most compelling this explains why we're drawn to certain people over others oftentimes. And that
Mhm.
goes for any kind of relationship. The favorite people in your family, and your group of friends, and potentially romantic partners as well.
Right. So if these gates are so important, like, would you go out looking for those gates? Like when you're trying to maneuver through the world, are you like searching for those gates? Like kind of got feelers out for them?
Um, yeah, that's a really good question, and it's
Mhm.
something that people. It's a people. It's something that I know people would be prone to do,
Mhm.
but you're going to draw them anyway. If you were to take all the charts of people in your life that matter to you, a lot of them would have the gate that you need. So you don't have
Mhm.
to go searching.
Mhm.
So, um, but it's interesting to bring this up in the context of human design and even astrology, is that we will think that, we go out deliberately searching for something like it's quite that easy.
Mhm.
So in my own life, for instance, gate 22 is a bridging gate for me between my single split definition chart.
Mhm.
And I encounter people with 22 all the time, and there is a draw to them, but
Mhm.
it's not just any will do. It's like
Mhm.
you couldn't take a random sample of people off the street and say, "Oh yeah, you're 22, you're the one." It doesn't quite
Yeah.
work that way.
It's
So
like
you have to be
is it like a combination? So not just gate 22, but there would be other things in the chart that would draw you electromagnetically together.
Sure. So, I mean, that just begins, not only will a bridging gate be important for you, but there'll be other ways for you to have those electromagnetic connections. Like you could have 3, 5, 7 connections with somebody where one person has one side and you have the other.
Mhm.
And the bridging gate is obviously the most important, but all of them are contributing to a sense of common connection.
Right. So you actually have a program that will take the two charts and put them together, right?
I do, and we had hoped to have an example of that chart today, but that didn't quite work out.
Yeah.
Yes, you can put them together and then see, okay, if you combine this into sort of one chart,
Mhm.
one being, so to speak, you could look at the energetics of the relationship, and that's quite fun too.
So that's what happens when you put the two charts together. You're actually creating from two beings, creating one being, and that's what the relationship looks like, is that third being kind of.
Yeah, that's right. And there's a whole art to looking at that, and but it can, as we've already seen, it can be to be aware of where you're undefined, to be aware of your not self dialogues within your own mind can
Mhm.
give you the tools to relate to other people better, to understand them better. But then
Mhm.
when you bring it together, you can see some interesting things. So, for
Mhm.
instance, there is a fun rhyme that you can play with.
Mhm.
And I mean, even if you don't have a program that puts the two together, if you have two charts, you can often sort of bring them together in your mind and sort of figure it out a bit.
Mhm.
Uh, for instance, there's a fun rhyme. Do you want to hear it?
Sure.
Okay, so remember there's 9 centers in human design. And so if when you put two charts together, you have everything, all 9 centers defined, that's called 9 and 0. All right, 9
Mhm.
and 0. Nowhere to go is the rhyme for that.
Mhm.
8 and 2, or 8 and 1, have some fun. 7 and, sorry, 8 and 1, have some fun. 7 and 2, work to do. 6 and 3, better to be free.
Mhm.
So if I go through and explain those just slightly more,
Mhm.
it's like the 9 and 0, nowhere to go. That's kind of like we always get curious and explore the white in our charts, right? So if
Right.
9 and 0, there's nothing to explore. That would mean that the energy of the two people together is very involved with each other.
Mhm.
It's kind of like it's all consuming.
Mm-hmm.
And if a third person were around, it would be very difficult for them to feel like they had a place in the dynamic because it's already completely filled up.
Right.
If you were two people, let's say a husband and wife who got married, and you had 9 and 0,
Mm-hmm.
it would make it difficult for the child to feel like they had an in.
They had a space. Yeah.
Yeah, there would be no space for them. So
Mm-hmm.
in that case, you could think, well, it would be better for the parents to spend one-on-one time with the child so that theoretically the three of them weren't together.
Right.
8 and 1 have some fun. It's like, okay, all 8 are defined, and then there's one that's undefined. And that becomes the place where people explore. That's where you would, in terms of the dynamic of the relationship, you would explore in those areas.
Right.
That would be where you would have fun and where, there'd be a room for discovery.
Mm-hmm.
7 and 2, work to do. So it's kind of like, oh, it's doable. You bring a lot to each other, and yet, there's work to do. There's going to be things that come up.
Challenges.
We all know.
Yeah. Yeah.
6 and 3, better to be free, implies that, okay, you're not particularly adding too much to each other by being together. If you still have 3 undefined when you're together, it might mean that not a lot gets added from you being together. It doesn't mean that you couldn't have a good relationship, but it just means, okay, why are you together?
Yeah, you don't really bring anything to the table for each other to
Yeah.
explore. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, or it seems there might be less glue keeping you, bringing you together.
So can it tell you who's going to be good for you in your life when you use human design? Is there a way for it to say, oh yeah, this person would be a good match for me and this is why? Can you use it that way? Or in a business, can you say, oh, well, this team would work really well together?
I'll speak to that in 2 ways. I'll speak to one-on-one first. It's better in a sense to enter into relationships with people based upon your strategy and authority. So somebody enters into your life, there's a possibility of them becoming important, and then you check out their chart. Mm-hmm. And you say, oh, look, there's some good connections, great. But your strategy and authority were the ones choosing.
So then the strategy and authority, is it better to have the same strategy and authority or different ones? Or how does that work when you're telling us to use the strategy and authority?
Well, remember, strategy and authority is what moves you along, keeps you in alignment with your own natural rhythm and your own natural design. So you want to find people. If you meet people in a not self way, then they may not be really right for you. So everything, strategy and authority is going to be harmonizing your life in general. Mm-hmm. And so that's why you want there to be a flow there. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, when it comes to business, the implications are huge because it's a whole separate study in human design, the business applications. And you can get teams together based upon certain channels that they have together, which are sort of in the central line there.
Right.
And because you want a well-functioning team to cover all the ingredients that you would want within the context of business.
Yeah, whatever project or whatever thing that it is you're working on, you want them to be able to do that. So if it was something entrepreneurial, you would want somebody with entrepreneurial channels, right?
Yes, or you'd want somebody who had marketing energy and another person who had organizational energy.
Right.
Management energy.
Yeah.
It don't necessarily exist all in the one person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. I just see this as a big thing in human design, that we can use it to help us with our relationships, something that a lot of us struggle with anyways on our own. Like we're intuitively we're not there sometimes. So this is just a tool for us to help hone in on what are those areas that we need to look at in order to have a better relationship with our family, with our business partners, all of those sorts of things, right?
And to understand them better and have more compassion for each other.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
To not, and to begin to let go of any the tendencies that we have to expect other people to be like we are.
Right. And to also understand when the big thing is, if you know what type somebody is and you can see them expressing their not self theme, right? So if you're dealing with a manifestor and you know it's a manifestor and you're seeing that anger come out in them, then you can stop and go, oh, well, how is this out of alignment? And you're feeling frustration, right? So I think it's a really, really good tool. So is there anything else you want to tell us about this type of thing where we can take the charts and put them together before we wrap up here?
I guess what I feel like a little bit like a broken record, because what I love is people's uniqueness. And if we can learn to love our own uniqueness and love other people's uniqueness and follow what brings us into alignment with ourselves, then the world we could create would be a much different place. And we could be aids to each other and encouragers for each other. And it really goes in, it's really very much in alignment with what's been happening in the world, which is over time learning to become more and more appreciative of diversity in human expression. People who are different races and different ways of experiencing their sexual orientations, and people who are incredible workers and people who are incredible guides. It lends to that.
Right. And instead of calling people lazy who are dreamers and artists, you start to appreciate the fact that they are that, right? Like instead of just applying a blanket way to be to everybody, understanding everybody was created to do things differently.
Yeah. And now we have support with human design for actually being able to do that. And to me, that's tremendously exciting.
To actually have a system to pinpoint something that we already know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many of us have been hurt by not measuring up to the expectations of other people. So being at the receiving end of all that conditioning.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I guess for today, we're going to say so long. I hope that this was valuable for some of you. If this is something that interests you, contact us here at Clarity, 587-596-3333. Set up an appointment with Hartwell to get your charts done. You can put them together. You can have a relationship reading as well as an individual one, whatever it is that you think would be of most value to you. We love that you're joining us every week and learning a little bit about this. So when you do come in for a reading, we don't have to go over all the language and things. So the next thing is kind of related to this one, and that is the implications of human design for the educating and raising of children. So that's our next topic next week. So join us next Wednesday at 9 a.m. again, where Hartwell and I will be diving into this topic. So for today, so long. God bless.